which leads to foolishness like this from Greenwood Bank. And mind you, the Greenwood district in Tulsa was Black Wall Street, so that's what this bank's name is in reference to. As part of Greenwood's Give Back program, we will give $10,000 every month to Black or Latino owned businesses as we remember the 100-year anniversary of the Tulsa Massacre. In a day and age of low attention spans where breaking news becomes old news in a matter of 24 hours, now would be a great time to remind you about the time that Joe Biden was asked about how he felt about reparations for the descendants of American slavery, and he literally responded by telling you that he was going to give your reparations to the Hispanic community.
Vice President Biden, do you support reparations?
Look, let me, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of every 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America, and we should invest in them. Everybody will benefit from it, every single American, and you should get used to it. This is a nation of immigrants. That's who we are. That's why we're who we are. That's what makes us different, and we should invest in them.
Thank you, Mr. Biden. Senator Klobuchar, you had your hand up.
Now combine that with the fact that despite the disrespect displayed towards Black America, we still voted him into office. So therefore, it becomes no surprise when the disrespect continues on the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre, where Biden came down to Tulsa delivering a speech on how horrific the events were, just to tell you that the reparations that are owed to the survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre is going to go to everybody else by way of buzzwords like people of color, minority, marginalized groups, disadvantaged communities, and Black and brown. Now let's take a moment to look at the numbers concerning the actual dollar amounts that should be going to the survivors, but instead is going to everyone else. And we're going to do that by reading a few passages from the CNN article. The president announced that he will use federal purchasing power to grow federal contracting with small, disadvantaged businesses, many of them minority-owned, from 10 to 15%. The White House said this will translate to an additional $100 billion over 5 years. Senior administration officials said that Tuesday's new efforts also include new specifics on the $10 billion Community Revitalization Fund included in his infrastructure proposal. The fund will be targeted to economically underserved and underdeveloped communities like Greenwood, where the massacre took place a century ago. Can somebody please explain to me, what are economically underserved and underdeveloped communities like Greenwood? What does that mean? The only communities like Greenwood were those founded and sustained by the descendants of American slavery. And oh boy, here we go. What about the Chinese massacre of 1871? Okay, fine, fair question. But what about the executive order on economic empowerment of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders? What about that $50 million Joe Biden just got you? You see, you have to stop making flawed comparisons to those whose descendants come out of the plantations of America. There is no comparison, so please stop it. Now let's continue reading. The fund will support adapting vacant buildings and storefronts to provide low-cost space for services and community entrepreneurs, including health centers, art and cultural spaces, job training programs, business incubators, and community marketplaces. It will also support removing toxic waste to create new parks and community gardens. New competitive grants totaling $15 billion will target neighborhoods where people have been cut off from jobs, schools, and businesses because of previous transportation investments, officials said. And the American Jobs Plan will also invest $31 billion to support minority-owned small businesses. You are literally watching your reparations money get dispersed amongst the general population. a $10 billion community revitalization fund for economically underserved and underdeveloped communities like Greenwood. And then they have $15 billion that will target neighborhoods where people have been cut off from jobs, schools, and businesses because of previous transportation investments. $31 billion to support minority-owned small businesses. And remember, every time you see the word minority, that equals this. That's what that means. Now, can somebody please explain to me what any of this has to do with Tulsa? You see, I've documented over and over again how this government has on multiple occasions delivered financial set-asides for multiple groups based on race, the history of that racial group, and how they have been wronged in the past. But when it comes to Black Americans, your history and would-be set-asides instantly becomes community property. It's for everybody, not just you. Because somehow when it comes to you, all of a sudden these things are unconstitutional. And the reason for this being is because your elected congressional Black caucus officials like Sheila Jackson Lee is too busy dancing a jig in Tulsa instead of fighting for Tulsa. Now, what are the consequences of this? If your own elected officials won't fight for you, the president and the vice president that you voted for keeps disrespecting you, and your mainstream media personalities and news analysis keep selling you out, then now what happens is that your history, legacy, and heritage is completely up for grabs, which leads to foolishness like this from Greenwood Bank. And mind you, the Greenwood district in Tulsa was Black Wall Street, so that's what this bank's name is in reference to. As part of Greenwood's Give Back program, we will give $10,000 every month to Black or Latino owned businesses as we remember the 100-year anniversary of the Tulsa Massacre. It's no secret the current financial system has failed at keeping wealth in the Black and Latino community. Inspired by the early 1900s Greenwood district, today's Greenwood is a Black-owned mobile banking platform developed for us by us. You see, it's only a matter of time until they start referring to the Tulsa Massacre as a tragedy in American history where people of color were bombed out of their community. The Greenwood district was a thriving Black and brown community that came to a tragic end. Now, you might think I'm being funny, but I'm not. I'm actually very serious about what I'm saying. You cannot continue to conflate a very specific and unique history of the descendants of American slavery with everybody else as if it's all the same. No, there are consequences for that. And we've watched those consequences repeat themselves over and over again through rising tide, lift all ships, we're all in this together policies that have shown time and time again that they do not work. Please hear me clearly. If you want to go out there and create a bank or some sort of financial institution that's for people of color, minorities, marginalized groups, Black and brown, that's fine. I honestly have no problem with that, and I'm sure the majority of you listening don't have an issue with that either. If that's what you want to do, by all means, go create it. But the moment you want to take that idea and attach it to the history of the descendants of American slavery so that you can ride the back of that history for this financial institution to thrive, to which typically leads to those very descendants of American slavery receiving the least benefit from that institution, and we can safely say that because we've watched this happen over and over and over again. Now there's a problem because in doing this, you are completely watering down, whitewashing, and erasing this very unique history of a very unique people that have never received justice ever in this country. And every time you attach other groups to this unique history, you bury those people even more. And if this continues, I've said it before, I've been saying it all year, and I'm going to keep saying it for the next 9 years to come. By 2030, it's over. you're finished. You lost. And I know many of you may be confused by what I mean when I say that. And I keep saying that I'm going to make a video dedicated specifically to that point, and I most likely will actually do it next week. So just hold tight because I'll explain myself. But many of you are already up to speed and you know what time it is. You only have this decade to get it together. Past 2030, we're talking about a steep uphill climb made out of quicksand. So we got to get it together now while we still can. And with all that being said, that does it for today's video. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. All social media links will be pinned in the comment section below. Please make sure you text tdhiphop to number 33222. That's tdhiphop to number 33222. That way you'll get a direct text notification whenever I release a new video, but it also serves as a protection plan for myself in case YouTube ever gives this channel the axe. I'll be able to send you a direct link to where you can find me next. And last but certainly not least, for those of you who have been subscribed to this channel for quite some time now and have a love and appreciation for the work that I put in on this channel as well as on TD News Network, the number one way you can show your appreciation is through Patreon. For only $3 a month, that will help put me in position to be able to take TD Hip Hop Media off of YouTube. Remember, the goal is not to grow big on YouTube, but to grow independent of YouTube. And also, don't forget to join the emailing list because there's no way for me to go independent of YouTube if I cannot take the YouTube audience with me. So with all that being said, thank you for your time, and until the next video, peace.